What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be talking about the XRP price chart and what is going on with the XRP ledger. As prices continue to waddle sideways for XRP in this range near 50 cents, as they have since that liquidation took place throughout the whole market back on August 17th, prices still just remain flat after over 2 months of sideways price action. We're going to make some comparisons here on XRP's current price to how far along are we, maybe pretending we were like in the 2018 through 2020 bear market. Are there confluences to price action currently as to what there were in here? One thing I've pointed to is the length of time that we've actually been in here is like we're beyond C19. And for those who weren't here during that time, XRP had gotten as high as $3.30 back in 2018, eventually bottoming all the way down here at 11 cents during C19. But since the peak took place back there in April of 2021, it's like we've elapsed enough time to be well beyond C19, and as if the bull run had actually already started. With prices being flat in here, even though we've gotten some incredible news, like back on October 3rd, when Judge Torres denied the SEC's motion to file an interlocutory appeal, claiming that the regulator did not show that there were substantial grounds for a difference of opinion, here according to Cointelegraph. And right here, on October 19th, when the SEC surprisingly announced that they were dropping charges against Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson, the executives over there at Ripple. Two incredible advancements within the case against the SEC, coming off of XRP being declared to not be a security according to the United States court system, followed by the SEC being denied their appeal, and then charges getting dropped. And as Stuart Alderati, lead counsel for Ripple, described it as not being a settlement, but an actual surrender by the SEC, price still remains stuck within this range in the same area as we were at before XRP is declared not a security, before the failure of the appeal, and before the charges were dropped against Brad and Chris. Wah, wah, wah. But are things okay underneath the hood? And that's what we're going to take a look at today by looking at XRP's price chart. And then we're going to do something that isn't favorable to everybody, but equally as important. We've got to talk about Bitcoin. Now, let's go ahead and first talk about what happened when the SEC lost and XRP was declared to not be a security and the price action leading up to that moment. We know that in 2013, 14, 15, 16, and 17, XRP had a crash, a retrace, a reaccumulation, and then finally it goes off into its big bull run. These percentage drawdowns were very similar to what we saw back in 2018. You can see here in the 2014 bear, XRP's price falls by 95%. It's very similar to what we saw in 2018, 19, and 20, which ended up being 96%. Then in the next drawdown after a retracement occurred, we saw XRP fall down 85.5%. Then after the retrace is completed, we see XRP fall down by what? 85.5%. It waddles sideways. We see all the same behaviors. We get to the end. I believe this was 826 days of a range. On day number 820, we get the resolution of the lawsuit. Price breaks out as it should, but then falls back. And during this entire time period in here, waiting to see if we would get a continuation as we did in 2017. What was the element that we kept pointing to that was vastly different from current times compared to here? And it's the one thing most people don't ever want to hear, and it's Bitcoin. Let's zoom in back on 2017. As we can see over here, this is the peak of Bitcoin from back in 2013. Draw a little box over here. Boom. Bitcoin is getting to its all-time high. Bitcoin's breaking out into its all-time high. Who goes with it? You got XRP going with it. We've done a lot of research, a lot of presentations on this YouTube channel over the years to show that XRP is very correlated with what the rest of the market is doing. And in order for bull runs to take place for XRP, they've been correlated with Bitcoin and they've been correlated with the broader altcoin market. There's never been a bull run that has taken place for XRP by itself. What was an element we were noticing as XRP got its breakout, similar to here in 2017, is that Bitcoin's all-time high was nowhere close to being seen. We weren't seeing broader runs with the rest of the altcoin market. We weren't seeing broader runs with Bitcoin. And while there's a lot of narratives out there in the XRP community, this one still tends to be true. Liquidity in the whole market, interest in crypto as a whole, and we just haven't had it. And still, to this day, Bitcoin sits way down here in relation to its all-time high. You'll see people screaming about it's time to FOMO for Bitcoin. But as we can clearly see, Bitcoin still has not done a whole lot in 2023 to incite extreme excitement just yet. But the question remains, is that about to change? You may have noticed the video I put out in the last couple of days, totally related to Bitcoin, completely related to this time we're in right now. I will refrain from making it too much of this video about Bitcoin, but if you have followed the channel and you have followed our coverage of the Bitcoin price chart, we're at a very interesting place on whether or not Bitcoin's going to go into a bigger breakout now after doing a long period of consolidation, which has a lot of similarities to back in 2020 before Bitcoin broke out and went on the massive run. Things that were very similar to the current price action we have now was this extreme liquidation event that took place back there in August. It's very similar to what we had back in September of 2020. Most of the market was shooken out here, expecting XRP to go down to 5 cents, 10 cents, Bitcoin back to $3,000, $4,000. And it's very similar to what we just experienced right now, where an incredible amount of information was spread that we were going to be going to 23,000, 20,000, 16,000, 12,000, you name it. The market got unbelievably fearful after this move occurred. Not before, but after. And this event of liquidations was larger than the FTX collapse. So what do we call it? A shakeout. And price is mimicking very closely to what happens prior to price really running up big time. Another thing, of course, that we've been observing has been the price behavior of Bitcoin versus 2016, and really starting there in 2013, 2014, and how every peak, every breakout, every consolidation is all acting in line with the recovery that took place in 2016 for Bitcoin. When the peak of the market occurred with laser eyes, diamond hands, Wall Street bets, YOLO, and all of our peaks, all of our rallies, all of our falls, and then our ABC peaks happening within hours of each other, even though they're 300 days from the peak, and then escaping this range at nearly 700 days and doing it within just a couple hours of each other, then going into 200 plus day ranges, and now finally starting to get some exit velocity, hopefully. We're seeing things start to turn up positively here for Bitcoin. And I know there's a lot of misconceptions and theorizing about XRP out there, but really we have about 10 years worth of data. We really just got a little bit over 10 years worth of data of XRP with Bitcoin, and the data is very clear. Bull runs, breakouts, they're all correlated with each other, peaks, all coming in at the same time in here, and even our move up that happens over here in 2021, all correlated here with Bitcoin. So if you tune into this channel for XRP related content, you've noticed a lack of it. It's merely because I acknowledge that this relationship does exist, and I pay attention to the element of the market that matters when it comes to seeing increased sustained price pressure happening for XRP, and that's Bitcoin. And the question now remains for Bitcoin, if it does break out in here, is this still just a continuation of 2016 where we see price shoot to the upside, but still we've got a long ways to go in consolidation in here? Or do we have those same elements of 2020 happening right now, where price finally works its way back up into retracement levels, as we're seeing currently right now, get a sustained break out of the retracement levels in here, and then price goes whimsically higher? In the event that it does, well, what happened to XRP during this time period back in 2020? Well, about 30 days after the breakout, XRP tripled itself. Then the rest of the altcoin market surged, and well, we all know what happened here. The SEC goes after Ripple, and every exchange delists XRP. Assuming we don't get an event to occur like that, this would be perceived as a pretty bullish element happening for XRP currently, and we've seen that happen before. As right now, we still meander along, having fallen just like Bitcoin did, whimsically drifting sideways, as Bitcoin goes and fights against retracement levels currently as I'm recording this morning. If this is the event, well, we also have to remember what happened with the altcoin market following this. It too began its majestic journey shortly thereafter, rampaging way to the upside just as Bitcoin did. So I know we spend a lot of time over here on Bitcoin, and that may not be the interest of everybody, but there's definitely a relationship that has existed for over the last decade between the price of Bitcoin, the behavior of Bitcoin, and the behavior of XRP. And even with the breakout happening when XRP was deemed not a security by the United States court system, we still needed more interest in crypto, more liquidity, more excitement. And the good news is, heading into this moment right here, what are we seeing? We're seeing all these dark clouds fade away from XRP, with the lawsuits being dropped against Brad and Chris from Ripple, the SEC being denied their interlocutory appeal, and of course, XRP finally not being a security, as it's always been, but the exchanges have all relisted, including Coinbase, Kraken, all United States exchanges. And now we're just trying to get these other elements to line up in the market. And that's why we spend so much time looking at them here. But fortunately, we're at a pretty intriguing point in time of, will we get a breakout over here in Bitcoin? And if so, that's a positive element there for XRP. So we'll move on from Bitcoin at this point, but I think it's important to recognize these relationships that do happen in here, as the price of XRP is correlated to the price action of the entire cryptocurrency market. But in the beginning of this video, we talked about this 96% drop that happened in here, then this 85.5% drop that happened in here, 96%, 85.5% in here. Question is, has enough time still elapsed for something to have already started for XRP in here? If you looked at how long 2018 through 2020 lasted for, it's as if we are actually already beyond C19. And really, that liquidation that we just experienced is really just like C19. That's how big of what we just saw happen from the peak of the news when XRP is declared not a security to the liquidation of the market and the extremities of the price action that happened there back in August 17th and 18th. That was like C19 happening in here. Looking at that, I started seeing some kind of intriguing things. I mean, we already know enough time has elapsed in here, but there's even some interesting behavior happening here on the price action, considering, like, was that our C19 occurring right in here? You look back through the price action happening in here, and these dips and these rallies kind of happening at the exact same time. And then even noticing, really, before this capitulation happens in here, the price action is really very similar to what happened right before this fall happened. And then, you think to yourself, well, am I just trying to see things happening in here? Yeah, I mean, I see something very similar to C19 crashing happening in here. But if I'm looking at this, like, am I just kind of making it up in my head? And so, like we say, hey, there's Bitcoin, right? What's happening in this moment happening in here for XRP, right? This is the capitulation of Bitcoin. Luna collapse, BlockFi, everything. This is capitulation of Bitcoin. This is FTX, but this is the true capitulation of the market. The vast majority of the price action takes place in this actual capitulation moment right in here. And so, like, if you go back to 2018, would we see that same thing happening here, right? If we're going to find similarities of a C19 sell-off happening in here, are we going to see similarities happening in here where this is capitulation of the market at this moment, right? And I'll take that off for just a second, right? Will that moment in time end up being capitulation right here, which is this, right? Shift it on over. There you go. And here's the silly thing about that, right? C19 happening in here. Here you go. Is this capitulation happening right here in 2018 at this moment in time right here? And sure enough, it is. That was the capitulation of Bitcoin back in 2018 at the exact time on the price action that we have it over here on XRP. And then we go on and have, our C19 sell-off happen. Mass liquidation, market is terrified, market thinks we're going to go way lower and we're doomed and everything, just like C19 was, right? And then there's another part of this that's a little bit funny as well. And that's if, we'll get rid of this for just a second here and come back to it. But the price action happening here for Bitcoin too, and putting that back on to say, here's what's happening leading to that moment, right? Here's what happens leading to the capitulation, is that there's this fall. And like, we've kind of got to go back in time to remember what the top of Bitcoin was actually like in here before things started falling apart, and how we had recognized that at the very peak of the market, we had seen the same behavior of what happens in the depths of a bear for Bitcoin, and that this was happening way deep into the market. We already knew that, on larger indicators, the top of the market had already occurred, right? It had happened back here during laser eyes and diamond hands back here in April. Wall Street bets, Elon Musk, all that stuff, right? We see it in all the indicators that we topped and we rolled over, and this all happened much earlier than the secondary peak that happens, right? You see the peak of the MACD right in here, whereas we see the peak of the MACD right here happens right at the peak of the market. We see the fall off of the stochastic RSI here on the monthly time frame, which happens from the peak of the market. That happens right here from April of 2021. And then we see the relative strength index also fall off here from April of 2021, just as we did at the peak of the market, right? So we have all of our things indicating the peak of the market is back here, whether it's MACD, stochastic RSI, or relative strength index. And then that even our price action showed we're acting like the depths of a bear in here from the actual peak, right? That these are the same price actions happening in here. And so here we are talking about XRP's price behavior happening from this time, and that we're acting just like we did in 2018 to capitulate from this moment, but then even to look at what the peak of the market looked like in here, and that price behavior for XRP leading up to the capitulation is the same thing again at the exact same period of Bitcoin that then leads to capitulation. It's all the same. So I also found it bizarre to see that this move that happens, this big liquidation in the market that's bigger than FTX, shows up at the timing of where it does, when that's also the same time Bitcoin capitulated back in 2018, and that we have the same price action of what happens from the peak of Bitcoin back in 2021. So whether, you're going to look to like, how bad is it? How are we looking compared to how we've been historically? We know it's as if we've already gone through C19 from the 2018 through 2020 bear. It's as if we've already done an 85.5% correction here for XRP. The element we're all waiting for is for Bitcoin to ramp up, send the market going, and take XRP with it. And I do get it. That is not a favorable thing to say. There's not a lot of people who like hearing that because there's so many narratives, but the data shows it, right? I mean, the data just shows it. Roll with it, accept it, right? But that's why we spend so much time on it, right? That's why we talk about Bitcoin so much on this channel. Yeah, Bitcoin's the second largest asset that I hold, but I don't hold it because I think it's going to be like magically taking over the world in any way, or even that the percentages are that huge in there. It's just that I acknowledge that relationship in there, that Bitcoin has a tendency to kind of pull the market with it. And the good news from the Bitcoin perspective is that, one, we're looking like 2014 to 2016 to the T. Here we go. We're talking about XRP. It's got, all these confluences to not only 2014 to 2016, where you got, the 95% crash, then you got the 85.5% retracement pullback, right? Those are very similar from 2014 to 2016. Then with XRP, you got somehow the timing is somehow aligning with what happened in 2018 through 2020, whether it's the C19 crash or it's the actual capitulation at the bottom of the market, or it's the drawdown from Bitcoin's all-time high. All of that's aligning with that. We're like way deep into it. We're beyond the mark of the bottom, and we're in the ramp up period, whether that's looking even at Bitcoin too, right? So Bitcoin's way beyond those points from 2018 to 2020. It's way beyond those points here from 2014 to 2016. Now the big question comes of, is Bitcoin going to ramp up and have a retracement? It's been in the same range of 2014 to 2016. Gonna get a shift out of here, hopefully. Or can we see even more? And if we're gonna see even more, well, then buckle up. Because this phase was the start of the euphoria in 2020. It's never talked about over there on Twitter. Nobody shares that personal experience out there of what happened this moment. Manipulation. Market wipes everybody out in here. People screaming that we're going lower. It's the exact same sentiment of the market. And that is what led into things getting silly exciting in this market. Price behavior is very similar. Big question. Is this just another leg higher, or is this something much bigger? And if it is something much bigger, then it likely is for XRP as well. But hate it or love it, the likely thing that has to happen here for XRP with all of this correlation happening here to Bitcoin is we got to see Bitcoin get going. And if Bitcoin gets going, let's go. And I think we're seeing a lot of optimistic signs, and it's why we cover Bitcoin so much that we're reaching there. You ever get really mad because you're like, hey man, all this great news happens, all this awesome news happens, but nothing happens to the price. Why is it? You're looking at it. It's this stuff, right? This is the stuff that impacts the price. But all these great partnerships, all this great stuff happening in the courts, why isn't price moving? It's this stuff that we're looking at right here on the screen. This is what matters. Unfortunately, we're reaching a time where things can get exciting here for Bitcoin. Whether it is just a little move up, we'll see what happens with XRP, or if it's a mamma jamma breakout happening here for Bitcoin and things get like really exciting. But I often am very critical of the idea of when people say, hey, this is like 2019 and Bitcoin's going to crash down to the lows. It's not only because I see it over there on Bitcoin that's just not true. That's not how the price action of Bitcoin is behaving. But we see it everywhere in the market that's just not true. The amount of time that has elapsed since the peak of the market puts us way into 2020 if you wanted to use that reference point. And even the price action happening in here and the timing of events and capitulations and C19 sell-offs, all that kind of stuff, we're just so far beyond saying that we're right here, right? There's just no way. And I've presented all the cases with super cycles and wait for consolidations and all that. You guys all know that. But price action tells us, we're either in a phase where, a super exciting time of this market is coming, or if, at the worst of it, we're just in the beginning phases of grinding our way back up. And you could see that represented in all the data. That price action currently does not represent early or mid phases, but represents late phases and really represents data of when we've actually started ramping up. And I don't think we're going to see a repeat of what happened in 2020, right? I mean, this is the SEC sell-off, right? We're ramping up, things were getting exciting. Bitcoin surged into the upside. This is where the excitement of the market is coming. And then we get hit with terrible news. So I'm not going to sit here and say, we're going to be repeating, 2020 and 2021 just because that stuff better not happen again. We better not have SEC trauma. We're the ones that are in the clear. We dealt with 3 years of that. It's our time. So, whether it has to sit here for a little bit longer and just keep waddling sideways as it has for 2 months, that could be the case. But I really just wanted to kind of show you all the data showing you, where we are, how things have behaved. You could see how it was back here in 2014 through 2016, the 85.5% drawdown after a 96, right? We got a 96, got an 85.5. Spent 826 days, right? We spent 820 days. We have what looks like our C19 sell-off happening here. Of course, it even aligns time-wise to capitulations and the periods prior to reaching that capitulation. And so all markers indicate, period of recovery. It's just waiting for the time to be right and the market to get shifting. And when you spend 200 and something days in a range like this, everybody gets pretty beat up and tired. But that is what we showed needed to happen in here in relation to 2016. And, I hope for more than this, right? I have to kind of keep this in the back of my head that this is really, what could happen in here. But I definitely see those similarities of how things took off and they got really exciting. And this was really just the beginning of the euphoria of the market. And well, in this circumstance, what was the thing that happened first, right? Bitcoin went. So cheer for Bitcoin, man. All right? If we get it, awesome. We know that a month later, XRP tripled itself. And that's kind of where I'm at. And that's why I'm focusing so much on Bitcoin right now. And hopefully you could see that happening. And so if I had to kind of summarize the things that I see over here on the XRP price chart, it's two things. If we look at major cycles, it's that one, we've of course completed the big crash, the 95, 96%er that happened. We've had the 85.5% crash. We've had both of these. When we look at timing of how long we've been in here, we can see the markers that have happened back in 2018, 19, and 20 that were beyond C19 happening in here and that we're just waiting on Bitcoin. None of this is, boom, must see. Oh my gosh, 589, right? It's none of that. And you could decide whether or not any of this stuff matters, but it certainly seems like we're on the other side and narrative-wise being on the other side as these things with the SEC are wrapping up. The thing we're just waiting for is for liquidity to return into the market. And that's why I'm showing you the stuff on Bitcoin to show you, hey, we're kind of at this setup where something like that could happen. So I'm optimistic, but like most, sitting here twiddling my thumbs, waiting for it to happen. On a side note, I did catch that Twitter space that happened over there that was hosted by Vet, where they're talking about automatic market makers. They had a lot of people from Ripple in there. They had David Schwartz in there with automatic market makers coming. That'll be something exciting for XRP. It's been Ethereum that's had really the smart contracts. It's had its Uniswap on there, right? Adding market market makers, gives you ability for more liquidity. People can create tokens, projects, stuff on the XRP ledger and not worrying about such large spreads. If you ever go play with the XRPL DEX, you can see there's usually big spreads. It's not a whole lot of liquidity, but adding the market makers gives the ability for there to be like liquidity pools and there not be such crazy danger playing with a lot of these coins that have such huge spreads in them and illiquid order books. So that'll be a big milestone for the XRP ledger to compete with things like Uniswap and Ethereum. And then, with hooks and smart contracts coming, that's great stuff. There's concerns about some of that stuff. We'll cover it another time too. But in the end, to compete in this market, those are things that we do need. And those amendments have been proposed and are currently being voted on right now. So we're adding the things to give us a competitive edge here in the crypto market to compete with other assets, along with the cloud of the SEC fading slowly but surely. We've got Bitcoin looking optimistic. We've got XRP having gone through everything it's gone through in every prior bear. That doesn't tell us a moon date, but I think it paints a realistic picture of, how this market has behaved historically. And hopefully that kind of paints the picture for you so you can kind of see the things that I see and get an understanding of why we're paying attention to this guy so much over here, Bitcoin. So I'll be keeping my eyes peeled to this guy right here, and hopefully things get moving in a big way. But on that note, that'll wrap it up on what I see going on over there on XRP. As all this positive news for Ripple has happened with the SEC lawsuit, XRP is not a security. The SEC's interlocutory appeal is denied, and the lawsuit against Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson has been dropped, or as Stuart Alderati put it, not a settlement, but a surrender by the SEC. And on that note, guys, let's finish this. That's it. I'm going to thank you guys so much for watching. If you're looking for additional content from me, you can check out this website that I built over here, which is bcbacker.com. This is a course I built with over 40 videos and over 11 hours of content. I teach you how to set up your own charts and your own indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro, teaching you about common and effective tools and popular chart patterns and ranges, along with the Wyckoff method like accumulation and distribution, along with Elliott wave theory, and a lot of the historical behavior of the cryptocurrency market, including bull runs, alt seasons, lessons learned from 2017 and 2021, dominance swings, and the behavior of Bitcoin versus the stock market versus the halving or the block reward halving. Also, some other data in here regarding research data, percentages, tokenomics, and the market cap, crowd behavior, meme coins, and one of the things that are most important, emotional management. It also includes downloadable PDF resources in here for you. I've tried to build a lot of PDFs to go along with a lot of this data so you can print it all out for yourself or just save it there on your computer. But you could check all of this out over here on bcbacker.com. Otherwise, guys, I wish you the best. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.